Oh guys, it's finally out. New Hero Vendetta gameplay trailer. Let's watch it together. Alright. Oh, hold on. I got the speed up. Let's play it normal. That's the stadium map. It's the actual Colosseum from within stadium.
Ancora a bocca aperta, eh?
Oh, that's a clean highlight intro. That's a highlight intro for sure. Oh my god, they put in a lot of effort. Okay.
Pathetic.
They went with a very safe design for
Leave
her.
no survivors.
Okay, sword drag so you can hear her coming. Basic 1-2-3 combo. Nice little fire strike, pretty much. Block slop! Let's go! Block slop! Alright. Nice swing. Nice little whirlwind attack.
Dirt beneath my heel.
Okay, pretty good. Oh no.
Enough games.
What was that face animation? Okay. Okay, big slam downwards. Power skills Genji. Okay. Oh, big slam on the Bastion on top, right? Oh. Okay.
Know your place.
Alright. Oh, the 1v1 with another gladiator with Junker Queen. Here we go. That's actually really nicely made. Oh, that's cool.
Arriva la punizione.
Oh, that's the ultimate, I think. The upward slam down. Ooh, I wonder if you can hold that and charge it further.
My reign begins.
Damn. Okay, so she's basically power creep Genji. She's power creep Genji if you could keep the sword out the entire time. Okay, there's a lot to talk about, and in the time of recording this, Blizzard also released the hero page, like the kit and the perks, so we're going to review them together and talk about Vendetta. Okay, so on your screen now is basically the hero kit. This one is courtesy of Overwatch Cavalry because for some reason I can't find the original Overwatch post. So we'll look at the kit first, which is up here, and then we'll look at the perks down here and talk about it. So starting us off, the Palatine Fang, I believe that's the name of her blade, her greatsword, which is comprised of hard light, obviously. It basically combo swings to end with a destructive overhead slash. So I assume the way it works is that it's basically a sustained based damage dealing melee hero. It's always safer to do sustained based damage dealers when it comes to melee characters because they're easier to balance because there's like many knobs to tweak. We know this because of a lot of melee games that are out there, like that, devs have talked about in games like Tekken. There's that one other one, it always slips my one dev gave a lot of good insight back in the day. Dead or Alive actually talked about this with the way that they have to do damage combos for melee based characters. So I assume it's the same thing that they basically learned about doing a melee focused DPS hero is like, well, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna have to make sure it's a sustained damage over time, not necessarily one big burst and like instant delete somebody, which is way too easy to access. So the one thing I just don't like is I don't like the fact that they erased, quote unquote, the idea that DPS Doomfist wasn't the first DPS that Overwatch 1 saw, but I guess in the Overwatch 2 era, in theory, technically, yes, this is the first melee DPS here. Now, moving on over, the block slop ability is Voiding Stance. You block with your sword. I do know this has a meter. This was communicated to me in the time of recording this. Reducing frontal damage and deflecting melee attacks. Now, that's interesting because there's very few areas where this is going to be really good. And I think, Brigitte in theory should have been good into our little lady over here, Vendetta, but with the fact that warding stance can actually deflect the melee attack. Now, could it be like quote unquote Genji's melee attack where the deflect on melee is just a damage negation? But if the melee attack being deflected back and the other person basically gets hit for that damage, I don't know, I think Brigitte might like kind of take a bit of a hit here in this matchup because technically Brig shouldn't be that bad of a counter into her if the deflect works the way that I think it does, right? But we'll see when the character comes out. I'll definitely be doing a Mythbuster and seeing how it goes unless the people that get early access probably beat me to it. But blocking damage will deplete energy. So there is a resource meter. Basically, this is like her version of a Diva defense matrix, but it's a block and is just, it reduces damage. So most likely it'll just be like a reworked version of Doomfist's block, which is Unfortunately, you're going to have to give melee characters something like this. It's either you give them a lot of mobility and a lot of speed, or you give them a lot of sustain to be able to stand their ground as they're closing the gap and then commit. So I don't like making the comparisons, but at the moment, the only other game that is relevant in the hero shooter genre, despite the casual focus, is Marvel Rivals, and one of their niches that they are actually very good at is their melee DPS. And this reminds me a little bit more about how you play the current iteration of Iron Fist, where you want to get in, you want to go into like your block mode, use that to like charge up your overhealth and actually commit to a fight. The trade-off is that he does like very little sustained damage over time. So this might be a little bit more of a Iron Fist like playstyle that we might be seeing coming to Overwatch, where it's a lot more about standing your ground, holding that space that you've taken, and then like making your way in with the kit. Now the rest of the ability, so soaring slice will be that you hurl your sword in a direction you're facing, and then you're going to be able to fly to it. So I assume that you will be able to throw the sword, and then you can decide whether you want to fly to it or recall it. That would be really nice in terms of agency. If they don't have this for her, that's going to be extremely awkward. Because sometimes maybe you just want to throw the sword to confirm a kill and then like bring it back. Kind of similar to the Junker Queen throwing knife. Would be interesting as well. And then finally, the whirlwind dash, which is basically she dashes forward and then does a circular swipe, which I know a lot of people are comparing to Magic, but like guys, first of all, like be for real, they're two different kits entirely, and they share like quite literally one attack, right? And like Magic's is like right click a projectile is nowhere near similar to the same way that Vendetta's projectile is quite literally a reworked and a slightly smaller fire strike. They both serve different purposes for different games. Anyways, outside of that silly comparison, let's talk about the ultimate. Now, the ultimate is the big one. Sundering Blade will cleave through most quote-unquote defenses. Now, I know upon first glance, people are going to ask, what does that mean? Well, apparently, Gavin Winter clarified that most defenses, and we kind of know this from some of the leaks that happened, the defenses, quote-unquote, that's being referred to in the game is things like Zarya Bubble, is things like the overhealth, and I guess there's like one or two other, we don't know if armor counts, I didn't catch that just yet. But we do know that even if a Zarya Bubble is applied, you will take all damage that comes from the Sundering Blade, right? And this thing hits like a brick wall. Now, from what I understand, it does have a charge up time. I did try to ask Coach Spilo if he knew anything about the Sundering Blade being able to just like release early at the cost of lower damage. But this, unfortunately, we were not able to have a exchange about this just yet. But in case I do get a reply from him, I will update it somewhere in the comments below. And then the passive is her Onslaught passive, which is something that Reinhardt has desperately needed, that I've been begging for, which is if you're attacking your enemies, you should increase your movement speed and attack speed. First of all, this should go to Reinhardt as well. I don't understand how he does not have it all these years later, but this might be the saving grace of the kit, because it is very clear that she's not heavy burst damage focused. She is sustained damage focused, which means there's going to be a lot of windows to counterplay her, and given how strong Poke is in Overwatch right now, honestly, I can see her kind of struggling to fit in. It sucks that we don't really have the HP bar at the moment, but again, as at the time of recording and editing all of this, I did get an update that apparently she's 275 HP, and a little bit of that HP is armor to, again, help with the idea that she can get in and stand her ground. Now, moving on over to the perks, once again, shout out to Cavalry. Perks, we have Siphoning Strike, so these are the minors, level 2. The Overhead Strike gains 30% lifesteal. So this is basically like your 1, 2, 3. Like, so your left click, your first left click is a left swipe, second left click is a right swipe, and then it's a up-down attack, right? So when you're going for that, quite literally, overhead slash, it's going to give you 30% lifesteal. This does not apply to the other attacks, because if you guys see the way everything is mentioned, the base attack is just, quote-unquote, Palatine Fang, right? The overhead slash is at the end of the 3 swings. So the only way you're going to have like that little Genji Dragon Blade perk over here is if you hit that 3rd slash, which again balances this out and should be able to allow her to stand her ground. Now, on the other side, in the trade for sustain, you get more offensive utility with Relentless, where Onslaught can stack up to 3 more times, increasing your attack speed by 5% and your movement speed by 4%. Now, this fully depends on what comp you're running, what you're playing into. Both of these perks are already incredibly strong. I think Siphoning Strike could be one of those perks that could end up being weak in some circumstances, because you are meant to hit that 3rd strike, but if the enemy team is playing like a close range comp, this might work out really well. Relentless might be really good against team comps that want to run away or kite, and this allows you to keep gap closing and keep committing to the fight. So it just kind of comes down to, preference. I think this is going to be one of those things that you want to try out. Me personally, I might be committing to that Relentless because I think, holy crap, like that's a lot, right? Especially if it's a sustained damage melee character. Then if there's one thing I learned from playing them in Paladins, in League of Legends, in even like just fighting games in general, in terms of how combo, button, like, the combos, combo trees work. I think that's the word that I'm looking for. Like the way you like combo through the character is that attack speed and movement speed on melee characters is way more important than it is on like projectile slash bullet characters, right? So I don't know. I'm eyeing up Relentless, me personally. Now, moving on over to the majors, we have the Swift Vengeance along with the Raging Storm. So the last player to land a killing blow on you becomes a target. If you eliminate that target, you gain 125 over health and you get to reset your cooldowns. Now, this is a little bit more conditional. It does seem a little bit more gimmicky for the character, but there could be places where this pops up. It fully depends on how good Vendetta is going to be at actually, like, taking those 1v1s, right? Taking like those sudden, like, deleting the target in a fight. Like, is this gonna be one of those things where it's like, well, do I need this because I already shut down the fight and I can just keep going? Or is this one of those like fun gimmick things where it's like, well, this character is kind of based on the idea of revenge, get it, because Vendetta. So it's like one of those things that she could probably use as a gimmick, but it's like, whatever. Like, mages have always been a little bit up and down. Now, Raging Storm, personally, I will be going for this one a lot more because I think people are sleeping on Raging Storm. I know there's been like a bit of talk on Swift Vengeance on the different social media platforms. I'm looking at Reddit, YouTube, and Twitter. But I think the Whirlwind Dash continuing to spin and hitting 3 more times for 40 damage in a wide area, I think this has insane potential, right? And this is a transformative ability, and I always said this, like, we should always have more transformative abilities just in general. Now, technically, Swift Vengeance is that too, kinda, right? But it's like passive stacking in terms of like the gameplay mechanic. I would rather have more to do, because more to do is more fun, right? So Raging Storm giving you more to do has potential to work out really well. Now, if you get animation locked, that's going to be bad, right? Because getting animation locked on a melee character is basically a death sentence. And again, if anybody's played Marvel Rivals, you'll know that by playing, I think there's only like one character that in theory animation locks himself, and it ends up backfiring. I can't remember who it was, but I think the quality of life buffed him to where it's not a thing anymore. But it was like that in the early beta, that when we were playtesting it, I think it was Iron Fist who was animation locking himself, and they kind of had to like quality of life throw that out because it was like, yeah, this doesn't feel good. So I am hoping Raging Storm is aware, like it does have the potential to like, can I cancel the Whirlwind Dash early if things don't work out so I can like survive? Because I want it there as an optional option that if I keep tapping the button, then it'll keep going. But if I let it go and I don't want to do it, I should be able to like reposition. So that's going to be the thing we want to keep an eye on. Now, what do I think of Vendetta? What do I think of her gameplay trailer and everything, right? So this one we have to kind of sit down and talk about. Now, Vendetta, I think she looks absolutely fantastic. I want to get the elephant in the room out the way. Excuse me. I think the comparisons with Magic are incredibly silly. There's barely anything that these two share in common. Arguably, the only thing they share is swinging the sword in a big like circle, which is like, guys, for God's sake, it's a video game character with a sword. Like, this is as ridiculous as the comparisons with Gambit doing a staff slam and all this type of stuff, right? So it's like, again, let's be a little bit realistic. Like, there are going to be things that you see in terms of stances and attack animations that is just now shared globally across video gaming. It's not just Marvel Rivals that probably has a staff attack that goes like that or a swirling attack that goes like that. You're going to see it in games like League of Legends. You're going to see it in games like Black Desert Online. Shoutouts to Black Desert Online. You're going to see it in even games like freaking The First Descendant, Warframe with their swords. It's like, guys, it's a sword and a staff. There's only so many things you can make them do and animate them, right? So, again, comparison's really silly. I do understand the comparison from a design-ish perspective with Magic, because in terms of the way the body armor looks, I can see it to a certain degree, but it's like Overwatch has taken inspiration from other things and not exactly shied away from it. But I do believe I did see the artist's personal commentary on the way that they wanted to design Vendetta, and it was, in their words, trying to take an old school gladiator look and make it look a lot more modern. Now, my personal critique is that even though I love Vendetta, she's hot, she looks amazing, she's absolutely gorgeous, and her gameplay style just looks fun. I just hope they don't screw her up with the balance. My only personal worry for Vendetta, if I'm being 100% honest, is like, this character could be the most feast or famine character that probably enters this game, and it might lead into a lot of situations where when she's on your team, she can be like a very bad throw pick. Because again, people are not exactly good at playing, close range melee characters. Now, hopefully, I'm wrong about that, and people are able to figure her out and all that type of stuff. But for the game's health and sake, I hope she's not bad. Personally, like one of the things this game has desperately needed is interesting flex DPS designs, because they're all kind of getting soft reworked into being more off tanky because of 5v5. And honestly, even Vendetta, a lot of people thought she was going to be a tank. Turns out she's going to fill this niche in 5v5 where we're having it with Venture, we're having it with Genji, we're having it with Mei, where it's like the projectile slash flex DPS slot right now is playing like these like budget off tanks that are meant to help the tank kind of gap close and like get on a target together, and like a variety of other like things to do with those characters, right? They're not exactly excelling because of their lethality, they're excelling because of the way that they fit into the gameplay structure. So Vendetta has really good potential. I hope she is a success, because I would like to see more melee characters in Overwatch. I think the idea is really cool. Also, please speedrun this character in Stadium. I would do nothing but play her in Stadium all the time. I love melee characters. It's one of the reasons I love Genji so much as well. I think he's a great hybrid between, like a close range assassin with the shurikens and combos and the Dragon Blade. I liked it a lot with Venture. I think Venture is a bit of an underrated character as well. And now I get this gorgeous design of a hero where I think, she's going to be a wonderful addition to the roster. My only prayer is, please, we've done this trend for the past few hero releases where the hero comes out, there's a good amount of skill expression in the kit, but then we decide to gigabuff the one ability that turns out to be the easy, I turn my brain off and get insta value, free value button, right? So I hope in practice she doesn't have that. I really hope there's no free value button, right? And if they have to giga buffer, they just look at her gameplay loop and not leaning into the block slop. Because again, my only personal worry is that if they lean into the block slop with Vendetta, then we are in a lot of trouble, because that's just again an indirect admission to that, oh my god, we cannot do a melee DPS, because like we have to just like make them stand their ground and stand their ground and stand their ground. Either that, or I think it's high time that Overwatch finally addresses the giga buffed power creep state of how incredible poke is right now in Overwatch, to the point that we are calling Overwatch a poke slop game, because the other playstyles are all in a little bit of an awkward spot right now. But anyways, everybody, that's going to be my personal opinion on Vendetta. I do want to see a little bit more. I don't think I can give a full educated guess about this character. We do have only really the trailer, which is usually just a hype package to hype up the hero to work with. I do think from a gameplay standpoint, obviously she's going to be very, very fun. I'm not a fan of, as usual, the rivals in Overwatch discourse. If there's people in my community that are watching this type of stuff, guys, it happens on both sides. Let it go. Like, grow up now. Like, we're going into like I don't even know, like year 10 of Overwatch. We're going into year 2 of Marvel Rivals. Like, they are going to inspire each other. They both might even take ideas from Paladins, because there's a really good argument to be made right now that she's playing a lot more similar to a character from Paladins called Xin. And I actually did my research over here, so I'm gonna let Xin's little ability breakdown play in the background. And while of course like not the entire kit is there, but you can definitely see that there's some areas when it comes to Xin's kit that let's not lie, they took a little bit of an inspiration, right? So maybe not necessarily the primary fire or this or that, but they will look at one or two abilities and they'll be like, how can we do that in Overwatch? And guys, that's okay. Whether Overwatch takes an inspiration from Rivals or Paladins, that's okay. Whether in the process of Rivals making a new character, they look at Overwatch or Paladins, they're like, hey, we have like this, character who's let's say with Rogue coming out very soon, I can see, Rivals maybe checking out Paladins and like one of their lifesteal characters. I forgot her name. She's like that weird ghostly lady with the little lantern. They could be looking at her and being like, hey, they did this version of a lifesteal character. What if we tried it, And then in the future, Overwatch could do like a dedicated lifesteal support as well, where they probably look at Rivals and Paladins and they're like, okay, well, let's take this idea, let's inspire from it, and let's create our version of it. So guys, like, for God's sake, at the end of the day, we as consumers are the winner right now. If you don't like Paladins, you might not like Rivals or whatever your thing is. You're like, yeah, I'm an Overwatch diehard. That's completely fine. That's okay. But I think like the only way we can change the toxicity in communities is if we all stop leaning into it. If we all stop causing these unnecessary discussions. I know I'm not going to be able to convince everybody, but it's like, guys, come on. Like, at the end of the day, once again, as gamers, we're winners, right? Again, if Overwatch inspires Rivals in a way, that's good. Because then Rivals would add their flavor, and then in turn, one day, someday, the, Rivals will then in turn inspire Overwatch, and then like Paladins, the grandfather of hero shooters at the moment, I can't believe I'm actually going to give them credit where the credit is due, but it kind of feels like Paladins was a little bit ahead of the curve, because both Overwatch and Rivals are looking at Paladins and what they did, because they kind of ultra evolved their game at a very, very fast pace, and they're taking ideas, to be fair, from Paladins, and they're like trying to evolve it. Like, let's be a little bit real. The way Perks and some of the stuff in Stadium works was a little bit inspired from the way things were working in the Paladins gameplay loop. So not entirely, like, obviously, like, they add their own flavor. That's exactly my point, right? It's like they look at something their competitor does, or like a potential competitor that once did. They like the idea. They're like, hey, like, what would that look like in an Overwatch universe? Let me try my hand at it, right? So guys, once again, stop being weird about Rivals and Overwatch. I do have a final video coming up on this topic, ending this debate once and for all, where I will give both sides the credit that they are due. I will end some misconceptions that I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of sick and tired of seeing on both sides, and then we're gonna have a talk about, like, the communities and like all that type of stuff. So with that being said, I'll see you guys in that video, which should be the next video coming out in the coming days, unless I have to speedrun like Vendetta's release or something and I get busy. So with that said, see you in the next one.